I'm your host, named bin Muhammad Rafi, and here is my YouTube channel, Zamir Universal. Today I'm going to talk about Narendra Modi, his past, his last two terms as Prime Minister of India, and now he is contesting again to become Prime Minister of India for the third term. And in the first week of June, we'll have the final session of the Indian elections, and then I think the public of India will decide whether they want Narendra Modi to continue as have his third term. Now, who is Narendra Modi and what is Narendra Modi? Please listen from the mouth of his own friends. How much does he care for the Indian poor people, the farmers, Sikhs, Muslims, Dalits, Christians, and how much he dislikes and hates Muslims? And why does he do that? Why hate is his food, is the most favorite thing which he likes to live with is not to breathe air and have anything said nice to the other human beings, but to actually lit and pour kerosene on the already burning. He creates passion, he lies, day and night he lies. He never likes to face the journalist, so he never holds press conference. And he has a charm like Adolf Hitler, and you hear from the BJP, a stalwart, from his own mouth and from the most prominent Indian journalist interviewing him, and what do they say about Narendra Modi, and that the Indians then decide whether they would like the Adolf Hitler to continue as a dictator for another term or give a chance to the other alliance, which is really more than 80 to 90% of the population who would come out to vote and will vote him out. Even in BJP, there are some very decent people who can replace him, and he had enough 8 years to destroy India. And I will have an Indian famous journalist, which he has said in his book, what he thinks about the Indian development and where the India is in the eyes of a neutral, world famous writer. And then also you will have the most prominent and most famous and important journalist talking about that what is this man like. His common, I think, name which everyone knows is Butcher of Gujarat, and he was denied visa. There was restrictions on his travel by United States, but because of his lies and pseudo and being a hypocrite, he became the Prime Minister, and it was tit for tat, so that they're going to have customers with a larger population of nearly 8 million, the largest and the most thickly populated country in the world. So it is for them, they wanted the customers that they sort of embraced him, both the United States and all the other European countries. Otherwise, he is the most despicable, disgusting, disgraceful person, and he lives with hate, and he has nothing in his credit that one can say about it. So listen from his own to believe that.
What's the difficulty with PM Modi?
He tells lies. He claims credit for Ram Mandir. He had no contribution in doing anything about getting the Supreme Court to clear the Ram Mandir project. It was I who did it.
Why aren't you thrown out of the BJP? You don't think that the high income tax is going towards the development of the nation?
Not at all. That money is not used for our development. Essentially, the country is losing.
So realistically, what's India going to look like in 2030?
Assuming that Mr. Modi is going to be the Prime Minister.
Yes.
It will be a 1930 of the United States. We'll be in a massive depression.
What do you make of the coming election season?
BJP should fight without Mr. Modi.
I'm just talking about the average Muslim. Should they worry about their physical or emotional safety in India over the next 10 years?
From Jawaharlal Nehru's time, there has been a deliberate attempt to create a situation where the Muslims feel that they are only safe with
Do people in political positions of power, specifically like the cabinet or the top of the world of politics, I'm also talking about the opposition. In your experience, does everyone take feedback or it depends totally on the human being?
No, it depends on how. If today's cabinet, I might say perhaps one or two I can exempt, but all the others, they are picked up because they would be a pussycat, because they won't have a spine. They are not people who are, entitled to become ministers. Modi has selected such people. So what do you expect from them? They will never do anything which annoys Modi. They'll always be looking to see what he wants, and they will only act if he tells them act like this.
But according to you, there are 2 or 3 names who are...
Two.
And you can't name them.
I can name them. One is Rajnath and the other is Gadkari. These two people, they can stand up. But then alone, how much can they do?
Stand up as in what, sir?
They can speak up, frankly. Say this can't be done, this can be done.
If they believe something is going wrong.
Yeah. They're
Okay.
capable, but they are not listened to.
Have you heard of instances where they've tried to speak up?
Yes, I have. I mean, not publicly. And that perhaps is because of the discipline of the RSS system, which is very strong. They have spoken, but in private. And they've told me about it.
Do you sense healthy team spirit?
At the moment, there's no healthy trend. It's Modi and then is Sancho Panza. You know what Sancho Panza is? No, Robinson Crusoe. You'll have to.
I know Robinson Crusoe, but I've never heard of that one.
Man Friday.
Okay.
So, Mr. Amit Shah. And the rest is all, they have to obey.
Have you interacted with Amit Shah?
No need to.
Never?
He's not, no. There's no point. I know what he has done in Gujarat and I don't think I want to meet him.
Would you like to see a podcast with them? With PM Modi and Amit Shah?
If you arrange, I'll definitely come.
Okay, I'll give you my very innocent and perhaps amateur and perhaps novice reading of the situation. My personal angle is I feel traditional journalism in a lot of cases approaches these kind of interactions in a very combative manner rather than from a curious and seeking oriented manner. And I'm sure you're feeling a sense of that right now as we are speaking. It's just open.
You're different. That much I certainly have felt.
Thank you, sir. I
the office in India, and she would have been prime minister, but for me and the then president Abdul Kalam. Both of us found a technicality which we could stop her, and she was stopped. Otherwise, she had everything ready, all the support of letters, everything was ready. And even on television, it was announced at 5 p.m. she will be invited to form the government. I went in the morning, and I would say to the credit of the President of India, he agreed with me, and he told her, I can't invite you to be the Prime Minister till the issues raised by Dr. Subramaniam Swamy are not resolved.
What do you expect? This chapter is gathering momentum.
That people who were bankrupt obviously had dirty money and paid in large amounts, and then they got contracts from the government when they should have been thrown in jail. So such things are all coming out. Nothing much has come out so far, but what has come out is enough to know what is coming out very soon.
There's more that's going to come out?
Of course. There's so many aspects of it. Right now, the United States, for the first time, has decided to prosecute Mr. Adani. What was Mr. Adani doing that we didn't know? But the Americans have got something, and nobody is going to tell us until the Americans tell some of us. So the issue basically today is there is no transparency whatsoever. And there are a lot of lies that are being... Take, for example, the occupation of 4,065 square kilometers of Ladakh by China since 2020. What has the Prime Minister said about it? That nobody came, koi aaya nahi, koi gaya nahi. Right? But that's not what is the truth. And I have filed PIL, not PIL, this right to information. And I had to go all the level. Nobody answered it. This is not that they said, no, it is not true, or oh, this is the truth. And finally, I had to go to the judicial part of the right to information, and they were instructed. The ministries were instructed that there are 7 questions Mr. Swami has raised. Please answer this by 2nd April. Now I got to see whether they do. How can they answer now after saying that Chinese have occupied nothing? That they have occupied 4,065 square kilometers of undisputed territory in Ladakh. Why is Mr. Modi keeping quiet?
Does this affect election season?
Well, it depends on whether I'm able to effectively put it across. I personally feel that BJP should fight without Mr. Modi. And BJP will definitely win only on the Hindutva issue. But with Mr. Modi there, it will get diluted.
You think he shouldn't be a PM?
He shouldn't be a candidate of the BJP.
Again, post these elections, and PM Modi is reinstated as the Prime Minister, what do you think his moves will be over one year?
Well, he will be making sure that there's no more elections for a long time.
As in elections will be...
Yeah, it will be postponed. Because then he will think now the country is totally with him and he can do what he likes. You just read Germany of 1935, 32 to 37 rather. Same mentality. Started off as a Democrat, and then he saw this huge wave of organized crowds. Many things which I didn't know about him in Gujarat I've come to know. I can't tell you on this forum. I have seen how he has behaved with some people who have become vulnerable and miserable. So there are many things that I know, which today is not the right time for me to speak as long as I'm in the BJP.
Do you intend on leaving?
No, I will not leave. I've never been in any other party. I mean, the party names have changed. Jan Sangh became Janata Party became BJP. But
still in a position to offer a totally different vision to what the Modi government is offering. And therefore, if I may ask you this, so that let's get this absolutely clear. You are saying it's a completely different vision to the Modi vision, but what are those 3 things, according to you, that you believe make your vision stand out, and which, according to you, in this campaign have become your 3 calling cards, if I may call them that?
Well, first of all, it's justice. I mean, this has been a problem for the BJP right along with us, going back to the 2004 election when they grandly proclaimed India shining without ever asking the question who India was shining for. We are a party that actually cares about those who've been left behind, those who are marginalized, those who've been excluded. And that's the first major difference between us. We stand for an India that will actually give people opportunities who haven't had them during 10 years of Modi rule. Second, we stand for inclusion, they stand for exclusion. And that means inclusion of all, people of all religious and other community identifications, all castes, all languages, all regions of our country. The BJP stands for Hindi, Hindutva, Hindustan, and the recent rhetoric of the BJP leadership has explicitly pointed at excluding one community from the benefits of Indianness, and that is the Muslim community, who've been demonized as infiltrators, who've been demonized as people who don't have the same rights as Hindus in this country. So that's the second major difference. The third major difference, very frankly, is one of diversity, both political diversity in the composition of the India bloc and the diversity in terms of the kind of representation you see across the India alliance, the India bloc, as well as the diversity we celebrate within our parties. We really want to mirror India as India is, or Bharat as Bharat is. We are not interested in a partial, narrow-minded, exclusionary version of the country that Mr. Modi embodies and articulates. We don't disagree that welfare is essential. We will probably do some things differently. You've seen from our specific suggestions, things like the Mahalakshmi program and so on. And one final difference, though you only asked for three, is that we, unlike Mr. Modi, are committed to rolling back many of his anti-people decisions, pronouncements, and laws. We will, for example, we're committed to abolishing the Agniveer scheme, which is destroying the professionalism of our army. We are committed to not making it possible, for example, to persist with the kind of amendments to the UAPA that allows the government to lock up people without trial, without charge.
अदानी और अंबानी का नाम जिस दिन प्रधानमंत्री ने ऐसे स्टेट से ले ली, उस दिन हिंदुस्तान के प्रधानमंत्री ने हार मान ली। कोविड आता है, आप मर रहे थे, उन्होंने आपको कहा थाली बजाओ। अदानी को कहते हैं पैसा गिनो। नोटबंदी वाले प्रधानमंत्री ने बोला कि अदानी और अंबानी काला धन देते हैं, तो आपने उन पर सीबीआई, ईडी की इंक्वायरी क्यों नहीं कराई? कोविड आता है, वेंटिलेटर नहीं है, ऑक्सीजन नहीं है, गंगा में लाशों के ढेर, और नरेंद्र मोदी की पार्टी कोविड वैक्सीन बनाने वालों से जब आप लोग मर रहे थे तब पैसा ले रहे थे। करोड़ों रुपए नरेंद्र मोदी की पार्टी ने कोविड वैक्सीन वालों से पैसा लिया। आप मर रहे थे, उन्होंने आपको कहा थाली बजाओ। आपको कहा थाली बजाओ, आपको कहा मोबाइल फोन की लाइट जलाओ। अदानी को कहते हैं पैसा गिनो। टेम्पो में भेजो मुझे। उनको कैसे मालूम कि अदानी टेम्पो में पैसे भेजता है? कैसे पता उनको? और भाइयों और बहनों, हिंदुस्तान के प्रधानमंत्री, नोटबंदी वाले प्रधानमंत्री ने बोला कि अदानी और अंबानी काला धन देते हैं। तो मोदी जी, अगर अदानी और अंबानी काला धन देते हैं तो आपने उन पर सीबीआई, ईडी की इंक्वायरी क्यों नहीं कराई? क्योंकि वो आपके मित्र हैं। उनके हवाई जहाज में आप खूब उड़े। 10 साल अदानी अंबानी का नाम नहीं लिया। मगर भाइयों और बहनों, मैंने छोड़ा नहीं। अदानी अंबानी, अदानी अंबानी। अंत में नरेंद्र मोदी, हिंदुस्तान का प्रधानमंत्री, कांपते हुए कहता है अदानी अंबानी का नाम पब्लिक में लेता है। अदानी और अंबानी का नाम जिस दिन प्रधानमंत्री ने ऐसे स्टेट से ले ली, उस दिन हिंदुस्तान के प्रधानमंत्री ने हार मान ली।
Why do you call that staggering incompetence?
There are several difficulties and several problems with this kind of a methodology. That is one. The second thing, of course, the most important problem that I must point out very briefly is that when they say that they were growing at 8%, why is this that consumption is only growing at 3 to 3.5%?
So you don't believe that 8% figure?
No, not at all. Not at all. There is a huge problem in this. Now, you see, internationally, it is acceptable to have a variation of about 0.5% to 1% between the national income accounts and the national consumption accounts. But here it is about 4%. So, which means I think this figure is so much inflated, so much exaggerated, that they're trying to make it into a huge, propaganda stuff. But
What about the claim of lifting 250 million people out of poverty?
I'll come to that, Karan. The point is this. The point is that when they say that they were growing at such a high rate of growth, 8%, why is it that the household savings is at the lowest historical low of 5%? Why is it that the household debt is at a historic high of 40%? Not only that, even the national debt has grown over the last 10 years by more than 120 lakh crore. Who is accounting for that? Well, now look at this. This is there is very interesting massaging of figures here when you talk about so many millions of people who are lifted out of poverty. Now you see, when people talked about per capita income, then they said, look, per capita income probably is somewhere it is high, but if you don't have access to schooling, healthcare, roads, infrastructure, information, all this, what is the point? So you need to bring in these elements also. So therefore, this concept of multidimensional poverty was brought in. Now, here, the government of India is playing a trick of, they are not talking about the income part of it. They were talking about, what is the infrastructure that was created. Therefore, they are saying that, multidimensional poverty has come down. But then the computing of even these things are having a problem because, earlier.
Can I interrupt?
Just one sentence, Karan. Earlier, 1 kilometer of a 4-lane road used to be 1 kilometer of a 4-lane road. Now, 1 kilometer of a 4-lane road today is 4 kilometers. So therefore, when you boost up everything by a factor of about 4, and then you see we have brought down the multidimensional poverty. Now, it's a laughable proposition.
So you're saying to me that this claim that we have lifted 250 million people out of poverty hinges around this concept of multidimensional poverty. And you're saying the problem with multidimensional poverty is it pays more attention not to income levels which are not growing, but to other things like health, education, etc., which are misleading at best.
And I want to point out one more puzzle and see what you make of it. Say, for instance, in 2014 April, the World Bank has declared in 2014 April that India has become the third largest economy in 2011. That's on record. In all the newspapers have published that. Now, how many times does our government want us to become third largest economy? Well, the second thing is, now we claim that we are now the fifth largest.
Hold on a second. When you claim that the World Bank says we became the third largest economy in 2011, is that in purchasing parity terms?
Yes, that's what the World Bank had said very clearly. And we don't talk about that at all now. Why?
So you're saying that the achievement of becoming the fifth largest economy last year is in fact misleading because we were already the third largest. I mean, we're getting confused over here, so I'm asking you for a bit of clarity, but briefly, because this point will now begin to confuse the audience horribly.
No, I think it's the government which is confusing, or the government which is confused.
Okay.
The data does not confuse you. One more point.
Let's extricate ourselves from this because I don't want the audience to get confused and lose track on this point. This is simply to do with definitions about what is the largest, what is the second largest, and how it's measured. Let's get out of that. Let's focus instead, while we talk about the last 10 years of Narendra Modi's rule, on Narendra Modi himself. Do you believe over the last 10 years he's shown that he's a dictator, or is that an exaggeration?
No, I'll come to that. Just allow me one sentence.
Briefly.
Yeah, very briefly. When you say that we have overtaken the United Kingdom and become the fifth largest economy, United Kingdom is a developed country. If you have overtaken a developed country, you would have become a developed country. Are you a developed country? But again, at the same time, the
Well, forgive me, sir. We need to be clear over here because we'll end up horribly confusing the audience. We've overtaken the United Kingdom in terms of the absolute size of the economy. But if you're talking about income per person per capita per head, we are way behind them. We are 21, 22 times behind them. They are at $42,000, $43,000 per person. We're roughly at 2,800. So we're around 20 times behind them.
That is exactly what I'm trying to say.
Absolutely. But let's extricate ourselves from that because I don't want the audience to get confused and sidetracked. Let's focus on the 10 years of the Modi government by asking the question, has he behaved like a dictator? In your eyes, is Narendra Modi a dictator, as many people say?
I feel that he's definitely not a Democrat. And I think he's on the way to become, and he would like to become a dictator. Because, you see, I think there is this...
Forgive me, what do you mean he'd like to become? Is he a dictator or not?
Now, yes, of course he is. He's not a Democrat. He doesn't bother about the parliament. He doesn't bother about center-state relations. He doesn't bother about the office of the president of India. He doesn't bother about anybody in the government. And he is no more what he used to be in 2014, a Team India, which is Prime Minister and the Chief Ministers.
So your answer to my question, is Narendra Modi a dictator, was, of course, he's a dictator.
Yes.
In your opinion, what will be history's verdict on the 10 years of Narendra Modi's Prime Minister?
I think the verdict would be that he has set India back in terms of economy, at least 20 years to 25 years. In terms of polity, at least he has taken us back to pre-independence days. In terms of social fabric and, scientific temper and the values of the society, of secularism, of, India belonging to everybody, he has taken us back to the days of 1818 or even before that, or even to the Middle Ages.
I'm going to repeat what you said because I think it's so critical and important. You said he has set India back in terms of the economy by 20, 25 years. In terms of polity to pre-independence days, in terms of the social fabric, he's taken us back to at least 1818. That is 2 centuries and more.
Yeah, even Middle Ages. The entire narrative of past worshipping, this has become the official credo of India under Sri Narendra Modi.
Let's at this point, Dr. Parakala, flip our discussion. So far, we've talked about how he's likely to do in the elections, and secondly, about an assessment of the way his rule has impacted India over the last 10 years. Now I want to raise a third issue with you. Let's assume that Narendra Modi gets a majority and forms a third government when the elections are held starting in a week's time. What would that mean, a third Narendra Modi government for India's democracy and for the country?
A return to power of this present government with this kind of a narrative, with this kind of a track record, it would spell disaster for India. I think you can forget about the kind of diverse, liberal, secular India we've been talking about, we have lived through. I think the narrative is going to be, this constitution did not serve us well. This is not the constitution that is suitable to India. It has to be a country owned and run by the Hindus according to their own ancient wisdom and ancient values and ancient texts. This is one, which is, in other words, is a Hindu Rashtra.
So you're expecting that if he gets a third term, he will move to change the constitution and officially make India a Hindu Rashtra. That's what you're expecting.
That is the project. That's what I see. And of course, that is the reason why they talk about for chars of power and all that, which is unlikely. But in the unlikely now, what is BJP now?
In other words, there are no strong dissenting, differing voices that matter.
I do not know, Karan. I am not privy to any information of that kind.
In your interviews with Deepak Sharma and Neelu Vyas, you also said that if Modi wins in 2024, it's likely to be the last election held in India. Do you really mean that the one election that starts in a week from today could end up being the last election if Modi wins?
You might have elections like we have elections. They have elections in Russia under Putin.
Farcical ones.
Farcical ones. 95, 98% people endorsing, just about to. And in China, you have elections. I met a Chinese delegation when I was the part of AP government. The Chinese delegation came and their presentation, the first sentence that they spoke, the leader of the delegation said, China is a multi-party democracy. That's what
you're saying to me, that if Modi wins in 2024, that election will be the last credible election. We may have elections thereafter, like Putin has in Russia, where he awards himself a majority of 90, 95, 96, 97%. But the last credible, free, democratic election, if Modi wins, will have been 2024.
That's right. That's what I mean. Yes.
How long will this horrible picture that you painted last? Is it reversible? And I'll tell you why I asked. We went through an equally gloomy black patch for roughly 21 months during the emergency that lasted from 75 till early 77. But we recovered, we survived, and we won back our democracy. Is the picture that you're painting that will emerge if Modi wins a third term irreversible? Or can it be reversed and can we emerge back into the sunlight?
Karan, I'm not somebody who believes in inevitabilism. I believe in human agency. And as I said, the present dispensation returning to power is very unlikely, as I said that. But you asked me if it were to return, what would be the picture? So that's what I have explained.
And is that picture reversible?
If at all that happens, you mean?
Yes.
Or
if at all that happens, can it be reversed at some point down the road?
It'll be a long struggle. Now there is a difference between 77 and 75 and 77 and what is happening now. What is happening now is part of a project. It is not an individual ambition or an individual quirk or an individual or what you call an idiosyncratic thing. What is happening now is a result of a project. The project is that to convert this country into a Hindu Rashtra, where other than Hindus have no place. 3, it should not be a federation anymore. These are the very important narratives.
What you're saying, Dr. Parakala, is that the big difference between the emergency and today is that in the days of the emergency, it was Indira Gandhi's personal ambition to secure her position for which she was prepared to sacrifice the constitution and our democracy. But because it was one woman and her interests, it was more easily reversible. Now it is a project to which the government, the BJP, the party, the whole entire Sangh Parivar is committed. And the project is not simply boosting the glory of an individual, it's converting India into a Hindu Rashtra and doing away with its federalism. And that project, if it were to happen after the third election and the third victory, may be a lot more difficult to reverse.
It's much more deep, and it has an ideological underpinning. Like I said, they not only tolerate inequality, economic inequality, but even communal inequality, religious inequality, regional inequality, linguistic inequality, food inequality, dress inequality. They justify it. They work for it. This is one.
In other words, the deep,
Ideological.
you're saying the deep, dark, black night that could descend upon India if Modi wins a third term may be very difficult to reverse. Sunlight would be a long, long, long way ahead. It won't be that easy. It won't be like the emergency that lasted only 21 months. It could last for a lot longer.
I'm afraid so, Karan. Yes.
On that very depressing note, Dr. Parakala, thank you very much for talking to me. Thank you very much for sharing your analysis of what you believe will be the likely election result. The good news is that you don't believe Narendra Modi is going to get more than 220, 230 seats. You believe that at that level, he'll find it impossible to form a government, even to cobble together a fragile one. Opposition, as you said, is what stares him in the face.
यूनिवर्सल टेलीविजन को सब्सक्राइब करना ना भूलें, उसके बाद बेल बटन पे क्लिक करें और अपने कमेंट्स के सेक्शन में अपने कीमती जो ख्यालात का इजहार ज़रूर